Greetings, this is Body Culinary, sending you all some warm, positive vibrations. So, today I wanted to share some of my most favorite and what I feel could be really efficient and effective hacks to finally get fit, feel better about yourself, and eat healthy for good, for once and for all, without bogging yourself down or beating yourself up about diets or making promises to yourself that you don't keep. So that's what we're going to talk about today. If you're interested in this conversation, then stay tuned. Feel free to subscribe to the channel. If you're interested in the three lifestyle practices, leverage lifestyle practices that I share on this channel, and those are peaceful consumption, aka food that demonstrates that it loves you back. Two, garden therapy. So many numerous benefits, more than I can name here, but definitely in addition to food sovereignty, a huge source of stress relief and relaxation. And then one of my favorite time of the day, a personal movement practice, either starting, reactivating a personal movement practice, what some people would call exercise. I like to call vigorous, joyous movement. Why? Because it is one of the most beneficial huge major investments into the 401k of your body. Quite often we think of the 401k of from a job, right? But what about the 401k of your body? What do you need your body to be able to do for you in the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years? Should, let's say, something should happen to your spouse, or perhaps you're single. It is a reality for us to be able to feel confident in our bodies, to feel that you can get out of harm's way, protect yourself, in addition to run, jumping, and playing. So, making significant deposits into the 401k of our body is important. Also, so that we can stay pain free and not be dependent on medications or people who don't really have a sincere vested interest in taking care of us as we go at some point, which will be all of us, into our silver years. So, we're going to talk about that. Welcome to the channel. On this channel, in addition to those three lifestyle practices, I share some of my journey of radical self acceptance. And what that looks like for me is being really creative and really just embracing and celebrating the features that I have been divinely assigned while I'm here in this human suit, right? So that's what I share on this channel. I am a professional chef, personal trainer, a natural born woman, which I enjoy. I am a mother, amongst other things. So you're welcome to join me in the garden as well as every morning at 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time sharp. There is a movement practice, aka exercise, and all you need is a water bottle and your exercise mat. If you really want to transform your body from your home, saving time, not having to travel to and from, you can really maximize the extra time now that you're up early to prepare some healthy food for yourself. So we're going to get in on that right now. So, yeah, stick around. All right. So these are 10, you can call them tips. I like to call them, these are strategies to really get fit, right? Not it's taking you 10, 20 years, because I can tell you, someone that's competed in fitness, someone that has been a trainer for many years, someone that lives a whole living foods lifestyle and that has strived to eat healthy for numerous decades. It does not have to take you years to achieve these things, but there are some activities and mindset shifts that can really be leveraged, that can really, really help you. So here they go, not in any specific order, but these are things that can really help you. I invite you to consider these lifestyle strategies. Now, I don't tell grown folks what to do, but I can tell you, as someone that is trained as a nutritional fasting and juicing instructor for many years, that has done personal training for years, I can tell you, and someone that's competed, most people do not maintain their initial momentary enthusiasm. Gyms know this, right? Most people don't reach their goals or fizzle out. So the momentary enthusiasm, which although great, it feels great, That's usually not going to be enough to sustain you when it's really cold in the morning or when you don't feel like doing something. So, you ready? These are things that I have noticed with myself and amongst other people who have achieved and sustained their goals, which is not the majority of the population. There are patterns that work. Okay. So, number one, simplify your dress, your style of dressing, making it really, really simple, chic and simple. And I always like to throw a note out there for my young flowers because I like to think of what would I tell myself, my younger self. Like, for example, all the money that I spent on clothes, so much, and I do love fashion, though a lot of it went into the garbage. So now there's so much information available, and hopefully you are curating the internet. If you're not leveraging your time on this internet, then what are you doing? There's so much education to be had, and it's very easy to get sucked into these little trance hypnotic boxes and lose years of your time. First, we called it TV, but this is just an extension of TV. So simplify your dress. So some examples of that might be like I love small earrings. Also, love some that are a little bigger, but I like things that don't get caught up in the jump rope are going to irritate me as I'm exercising. So that is a priority for me to feel comfortable. I don't want anything to rip my earlobes. I like I like funky, but I also like classic styles and things that go with everything. So when as a young woman, usually we follow. We're a species. I'm very humble that follow. We follow to fit in. It's just part of human beings what we do. Though to find out how to dress for your body type and it could save you a whole lot of money and to not go with every trend every print and looking like a cookie cutter that can save you so much time and money which could be traded or swapped in for so many rich life experiences. So to simplify your dress and find colors that work for you. As a trainer, I used to wear all black all the time. I don't wear all black. As a matter of fact, for quite a while, I decided I did not want to wear the New York signature trainer black. So I've incorporated a bit more of it just because I usually go from movement to the garden to different activities. I like and prioritize an active lifestyle, but I do also like color because color can it can make you feel a certain kind of way, especially pinks and certain things. Though when you're learning how to dress very simply, you can have everything in your closet complement your body shape and everything can mix and match together, right? Quite often, I've observed, and this is just my own personal perspective, especially in Afro culture, we're very colorful when it comes to fashion and expression. You know, fashion is it's like a living art form. And while I love it, it can be very distracting when it comes to your coins. So learning very early on um, fashion or style more than fashion, if you can learn to train your eyes, it can save you a lot of time and money and anxiety about having to constantly shop, whether that's at the beauty supply store for changing your hair color, which is very damaging, by the way, every 10 seconds, or constantly feeling an anxious need to spend up each check you get, right? If you think of, like me, if you couldn't wait to start working at age 14 to buy your own clothes, I spent so much time chasing fashion to fit in. And now, in contrast, I would say I will play more with vintage. I bought a lot of stuff brand new, and a lot of it went into the garbage because it was more trendy. And I really appreciate quality and style and cuts and fits. As a matter of fact, if you're a young flower, you may want to play around with more vintage dress that can send you a lot of money. So simplify your dress with good quality pieces that can take washing. I know I hand wash a lot. I have no problem hanging my things out on the line. Just be careful of the sun. Simplify your dress. Number two, second hack would be simplify. Again, these are suggestions. Simplify your hair. Now, I can appreciate makeup. I can appreciate if someone has their hair processed. I remember when I had a wig, I had a Jerry curl and a gold tooth. I'm just saying. And so I can appreciate just when, we look very well put together. However, I prioritize and just I love principles and discernment because they can really activate your critical thinking and save you time so you can wade and maneuver your way through all the different programming and the different things coming to capture your attention to get you to spend your attention and spend your hard-earned fiat currency. So I would say I prioritize, as I've mentioned before in this channel, health and confidence over an ever moving, made up, random goalposts of beauty. There are some things I could never be, and that's okay. That's something that can make us perhaps feel very, greetings, Ms. Val. It can make us feel kind of dejected, right? So I can't tell y'all, I can only share my own perspective, but I like to be honest and a realist. This was not desirable hair when I was growing up. It just wasn't. So when I looked at our when I look at our vanilla counterparts and our Asian counterparts, I feel like, how come they can get up and go and they've got bounce and behaving hair and they can wash it and go? Like when I think of a ponytail, right? For example, with a lot of bounce, like Eureka. I have a ponytail with body with zero oil and zero products. Like who knew? So many of us, without guidance or without seeing models, right? Representation does matter. We don't see a lot of possibilities for ourselves, and so currently. You can see there's a lot of dysmorphia. Again, it's not for me to say anything about people's personal self expression. Though, if we were to really sit back and to look, I mean, you can look on YouTube. We have so much dysmorphia, and that we didn't have it like that. We've had our issues in particular. I can say, as an Afro woman, we've had our issues, right? And things we've experienced, traumatic trauma with our hair and in society and being teased and so on. But we were comfortable with our glutes and being curvy. And now it's turned into a really intense case of dysmorphia. And so there are many women now being vulnerable and sharing their stories about how they've altered themselves. Many young women, I think more young women today than older women. Someone let me know. And I know some people personally where it's been a tragedy, like botched up jobs and the scarring and the trauma and the money they have to spend to try to keep fixing something. It's like fixating on something and trying to change it, change it, change it. And if you think about it, who sets the standard? What is the standard that we're aspiring to be? Now, many of us are all starting to look like cookie cutter. So I don't hear a dialogue. I don't hear coming out of folks' mouth an appreciation. I think there's almost an overwhelming lack of appreciation for our natural presentation. And something just feels very uneasy about that. Though I also can understand that we're easily influenced and we're easily conditioned. Some people say program, I would say condition. So to simplify your hair, right? When you see, like, let's say, for example, as I study styling, in messy buns, and you'll see, our vanilla counterparts with little tendrils. Well, with this carpety cotton, I don't have tendrils. I don't have curly tendrils. And yes, I rock the baby hair with Vaseline and Dixie Peach hair grease growing up with a toothbrush. But I realized that this would be my version. This is what it looks like. It's not twisted, it's springy. Sometimes I can spritz a little bit of water in it, but my hair has a lot of body, and this is what it does. And it feels so it feels almost beyond words. It feels so freeing psychologically and emotionally to, like, really, I don't know if I want to say maximize, but to really embrace the uniqueness of my hair's natural characteristics. And I don't think many of us follow the rabbit hole. I've said before, if my hair's hanging on by a shoestring, I would just cut it off and I would rock a baldy. I feel, because I've done it before, I tested the waters and I feel stunning. So I think it's very important that we see different models, or look for those different models. When I've seen those women, I've always been amazed. The first woman I saw, Kimmy Kane, years ago, was the first woman I saw with a really, really low peach fuzz. And I saw it one time and I was like, I want that. So it is important to see ourselves. So simplifying your hair means you can go from one activity to the other. My hair doesn't, it's not greasy, contributing to acne. I've had truckloads of acne and scarring. It's not putting oil on my neck or my collar. It's lightweight. I can tie it down and spritz it with a scarf if I want to make it look more polished. but it's just pure freedom. And I don't know that we've ever experienced that. It's like we always have to do something. So I'm really with the freedom here. And I've got a nice bouncy ponytail. Like who knew? So I can see what my hair behaves like, and it is fantastic for walks and runs in the rain and for exercise. All right, hack number 3, declutter. So really decluttering your clothes, books, things that are taking up a lot of space can do so much to lighten your load and make space. Your decluttering can make physical space and emotional mental space for you actually to exercise, right? Your personal movement practice, or what I also like to call vigorous, joyous movement. I feel relaxed when I am not crowded by too much furniture. It makes me feel claustrophobic. I also grew up with a lot of people around me hoarding, and I don't make them bad or wrong, but I understand that they were holding on to so many keepsakes, and it was slip covers on the furniture, and there were so many things that were paid for, but that we never got to use. I even picked up some of those patterns. So sometimes we pay all this money and never wear our best clothes. Like we're waiting for the right time to really enjoy what we spent so much time and money to earn. And we got a bunch of fools that could blow this planet up. So why not enjoy yourself now? So I spent many years actually decluttering in order to be able to travel more. And I tell you, it felt like such a huge exhale, such a huge exhale to let go of stuff. I mean, especially when it comes to books. I love books. I mean, I've given away my precious libraries, and at some point I realized I didn't need them. So I made the effort to gift them to folks that I felt would really get good use out of all of that culture and exercise and raw foods and chef books and chef tools. I just had so much of it, and it was actually very freeing to let it go. So when you let it go, you don't feel like you're paying money to live in a storage box of stuff that you never get to use. Because, I mean, how many clothes can we wear? And again, back to our first point, perhaps for those flowers or those folks that are experimenting and learning about dressing for your body shape and exploring your personal style, maybe a good idea perhaps would be to explore more vintage, because it's a night and day difference. You can actually find really good consignment or vintage items at a teeny fraction of the cost. And if you don't like them, you can gift them, or perhaps you can swap them and with someone else. Greetings from Indonesia. Ms. Israel says, I have got to work more on decluttering. And perhaps I love to come together around activities rather than it's so much chitter chatter. Uh, and I know for me, one of my Achilles heels, are the areas for me to constantly work on, is my sleep, because I'm an early riser, right? So certain times of the year, I'm up 2 hours before everyone else for the fitness class, which is a hit it and quit it cardio, flexibility, and strength. So it's really important for me to go to bed early. And I totally understand. I get it. When you really get the benefit of getting up early, it will cause you to reverse engineer and to cut out a lot of time wasters, people wasting your time, or just not making a good investment of your time with people that are complaining about things for the longest time, that they don't take committed action to get into action or corrective action around the thing that's a thorn in their side. So it can really make you vigilant if you're missing your workout and your movement practice, which is a big, huge part of self care and self therapy. Deep. I'm not just talking about a spa and getting a massage. Your movement practice, it's one of the most ultimate forms of self care, and that's been for decades consistently. So, declutter. So, maybe perhaps we'll have some decluttering parties. Decluttering and some garden parties. So hit me up if you haven't already. There's a link in the About section for Flower Fit Community. You'll need to download the Discord app. I must be able to identify the email and who the person is, or I don't accept anyone into that space, so that safety is number one. So I can curate and I can bump people out of that app inside that private room. You think that would be fun, Ms. Bell? Greetings, Carolyn. All right, so number 3, we have simplify your dress. 2, simplify your hair. 3, declutter. Number 4, support. Support. Get some support to keep yourself in what I will call the conversation. Now, again, I'm giving y'all some tips that work. These are things that I have used. I come from a family pattern of morbid obesity. I've also been raised with that pattern, the conditioning of self soothing with food. And I don't think that is something to shame ourselves about. Yet, I think perhaps social media and conditioning, where we're just eager a lot of times, especially as women, to have the right answer and we say the right thing. And I don't know if we're always. Let me put it like: there's a lot of cognitive dissonance, and that seems to be the standard of the popular narratives. Right? We say the right thing and we show, our best moments. Yet in your quiet moments, if we are really quiet and we tap into our own onboard divine intelligence, we can discern if we are eating too much, if we know if we're eating lots of processed foods, or if we have a fixation on certain foods that we're using to comfort, ourselves. We don't need to be PhDs to figure this out, right? But some quiet time, which is why I'm an advocate for early rising. I'm the 4 o'clock in the morning kind of person because it's a power hour. It's an hour where you can really hear before phones. Anybody using real phones anymore, or the old phones? Before the phones, before the children, before your partner, before the world gets really noisy. At that hour, you can tap in to your own onboard divine innate intelligence and ask questions and allow your insight to bubble to the surface. Right? So support, I'm unapologetic about creating support for myself and getting support for myself. That is meant even as a coach. For you, I got clear for some reason at a very young age, maybe it's from being, going to the library. I figured out principles, and I love principles and discernment because they can make you clear. They are a shortcut. I figure like these other people are not necessarily smarter than me. I think perhaps they're aware of some information I'm not aware of. So I figured, well, let me pay to get access to information that I'm not aware of, whether that's money, whether that's what I figured out with one of my first personal trainers in fitness. I also figured that I could shorten my learning curve. So that's a principle. In addition, I've always made use of the library, cassette tapes, constantly keeping these things around me as support. And also education. Education, comprehensive education, has made me very clear. I was a junk food junkie. So, seeing with atherosclerosis, aka a clogged artery, and watching the waxy substance being pulled during surgery out of the artery, some of these things, even though the conditioning was still there, really helped me get clear. And if not for education and feeling better with a movement practice, as well as having really delicious natural food to look forward to, I'd still be a junk food junkie, right? I also have half of a thyroid, so that was pretty much waiting for me. So support those books, those tapes. A lot of times I bought exercise equipment for all my friends, and most of the time they never came. So I had to resolve that I'm on my own and I need to chart my own path. And a lot of times I went to classes by myself, workshops, I traveled and did things by myself. And I had to accept that. And that's how I got actually access to a lot and came across a lot of wonderful mentors. So get support, right? If I was a junkie, and people might think I'm joking, but I'm not, made a practice of studying junkies. I actually have. I'm very serious because I've been fascinated from a child about the process of self sabotage. Why would somebody hurt themselves or their spouse or their children or stick needles in their hand or destroy their liver? It never made sense to me as a child. So that stood out on my radar, in addition to self actualization, right? In particular, for some reason, looking at athletes, right? Or looking at people that seem to live in a similar neighborhood, right? But yet in one neighborhood, folks would destroy their own property and where they live and desecrate it. In another neighborhood, they didn't. So I said, it must be something going on there, a thought process. So getting support to shorten your learning curve is a great investment. Yeah, it is. Most successful people get support and coaches, presidents, heads of industry, and so on. So I'm unapologetic about getting support for myself. I will always do that. Number five, getting into action consistently. Again, these are strategies. One that these are strategies which will leverage your time. You're going to get more back for the investment. I like to get more back for my investment. When I work with coaches, I'm like, this person is worth a gazillion dollars, right? I've had coaches that are the best. Like this guy was like a physiotherapist, a sports coach, had his master's degree, great attitude, into personal development. I'm like, he's worth so much more. He or she has been worth so much more. So getting into action consistently, for example, it's easy to fall into our very valid excuses, right? Perhaps valid excuse. I don't have the money to exercise. I don't have the money for a gym membership. I'm a single mom. I'm by myself. I'm in a small apartment. There's no health food in my neighborhood. Those are all very valid excuses. Yet your valid excuses can be running your whole life. And it can perhaps benefit us to listen and maybe perhaps write out the narrative, the ticker tape, the dialogue that's on automatic pilot and that is looping and that is often disempowering. When your narrative is disempowering, it kind of saps you of your energy. You're sapping your own energy habitually. It's conditioning, and you habitually sapping your own energy from seeing possibilities and solutions, for yourself. So getting into action. For example, this is what I've heard as a trainer over the years. I would do a consultation, and the person would say, "Well, I'm going to do some cardio before I start coming to the gym." And I used to be like, that doesn't make one iota of sense. Or that would be like trusting the unhealthy, addicted part of yourself to get healthy. If you haven't had a result or you haven't had success, why would you trust that process? It's like it's it's actually quite delusional, and more so than that, it's ineffective and it's inefficient, right? And it's not really confronting or really looking at uh, the foundation, right? What is the mindset? What is driving your thinking and reasoning process? How do you arrive at your decisions? How do you decide to exercise in spite of limited time, limited resources? How do you make a decision to use just your towel and to exercise? There's a thinking and reasoning process going on there. So, getting into action, even if it was 10 or 15 minutes consistently, I think what we're not encouraged to do is there are some leveraged mindset hacks here. For example, if you're waiting for motivation to exercise, most likely it's not going to come. Yet, if you do the action, right, and let's say, for example, you get into your movement practice for 10 or 15 minutes, even if it's challenging, you're going to feel more motivated after. Why? And it's going to be a leverage motivation. Why? Because you start to restore your integrity. And your subconscious knows, it feels a certain kind of way. When you start keeping your promises to yourself, then you can start to trust that you will do what you say you're going to do. Now, think about it on this internet. It's enticing. I'm not immune. I may be a bit more aware. I strive to be aware, but it's enticing to watch gossip, to get caught up in other people's lives. And it's sometimes it would seem humorous, right? Laughing at our pain. However, it's addictive because it's a distraction, and then we don't have to confront the discomfort of starting, or we don't may not have to address, oh my gosh, I can't believe that my numbers are off the chain, or where did this 50 pounds come from? Or it's avoidance, and it's packaged up quite nicely. It's packaged up quite nicely. Yet I'm wary of principle. I'm wary of someone offering me solutions to make me feel better that at a basic level would compromise my brain, my one and only brain, my immune system, my thinking and reasoning ability, to offer me something as a solution to make me feel better that would weaken me. Maybe that's just how I'm processing the information. So I don't want a solution that's going to make me feel better in the short term, yet it's going to break my face back out with acne that took me years to clear up. Or I'm very well aware that this consumption pattern or this treat will put me at risk for diabetes and morbid obesity, and I don't like needles, right? So I'm much more present. It could also be from seeing so many situations working at a holistic health center where people came after the doctor said they couldn't do anything else for them, right? Or seeing the amputations in my family of limbs, breasts, stomach surgeries. Um, I've just seen so much. So I'm present more to the suffering, though people would tell you that they're fine. I remember once a woman I was doing a consultation with, very, very accomplished professional woman in law, and we were doing the consultation, very high achiever. And when she described all of the stuff that she was going through with her family, I was thinking like, oh my gosh, like, ooh, how is this woman still walking around? And she said, I'm fine, I'm fine. And I was just thinking like, wow, wow. It's cognitive dissonance is really on steroids. And I think there's definitely something happening with dopamine. We're encouraged to not really be present, right? Because it can perhaps be scary. And as I've addressed on this channel before, you can look it up, the five, some people say six basic human fears, right? Fear of criticism, fear of loss of love or never finding love, fear of old age, fear of poverty, and fear of death. They are primal human fears, and they're being triggered the moment we turn on these devices, and it goes past our conscious and hit you straight in your subconscious. And there we have triggered, conditioned reactions. And there goes a good portion of our lives. Okay, so get into action consistently, even if it's 15, 20 minutes. People underestimate consistent action. I'm watching someone right now that's showing up in the mornings. She's transformed her body in a year of fruits and vegetables and consistent movement, the fittest she's ever been, and not her 20s, 30s, or 40s. And it blows me away every time. I've seen consistent patterns with people that master their space and give themselves every excuse to move and to eat fruits and vegetables and to rest. It's simple, it works. The consistency, though, is what works. And perhaps allowing yourself to be imperfect, right? But to show up and consistently, that's how you're going to learn. Okay, so moving right along. Six, measuring, right? Using accountability tools. Again, that is something consistently that has worked, that I've used for myself personally, and I've used it with clients. It can really help you, right? For example, when folks say, oh, I want to get a little fit, or I want to fit into a dress. Okay. If we look at this objectively, right? If I say I think or feel, there's no way for me to measure if my approach is efficient, if it's effective, right? If I'm making any kind of progress. Most people are moving 5 to 10, sometimes 15 pounds. I can tell you as a fitness, somebody that's competing in fitness, moving water weight back and forth. That's not necessarily, it's significant, but it's not necessarily changing your composition. So I hear people say quite often, I want to lose weight. Though I know that most people do not discern between water retention, adipose tissue, which is a technical term for fatty tissue, and muscle weight. They're all very different, and they all look different and perform different on your body. In Flower Fit and in the group coaching, or in particular in group coaching on Sundays, which we meet every uh, Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can reach out to me on bodyculinary.com if you're interested in making that kind of investment for yourself. But we've been discussing and breaking down a lot of the myths around health and fitness. There are a lot of them. And these myths can really have us putting a lot of time, energy, and resources in areas that are not effective because we're following the groupthink, right? For example, with body positivity, which is wonderful. I think, though, just my perspective, that perhaps the body positivity is getting conflated, and it's somehow, I think, and I get it, because many women and folks are tired of being shamed for their body size, because all of who we are. It's definitely not the size of our bodies. Yet, for us to get complacent about the urgency of our numbers, right? Of our waist starting to hang, our waist starting to hang over our belt, that is a precursor for diabetes and heart disease and the comorbidities or the diseases that travel in packs. We usually get one or the other. I've had people over 300 pounds to tell me that I'm not diabetic. So sometimes I'll be like, and I was like, have you been tested for diabetes? And they'll say no. So sometimes I'm wondering, are we waiting for the diagnosis? Are we waiting for the diagnosis? So it is for us to tap into our own onboard divine intelligence and get quiet amidst all the noise and ask ourselves questions. Is this urgent? Is this important? Because we may not really be addressing the fact that our organs, our internal, I know people want the skin and the muscles, but folks are not considering your spleen, your kidney, your liver are under extreme stress and they can't take the stress. Having too much adipose tissue or the unhealthy excess fatty tissue, right? It sets the stage for inflammation, right? So I think that kind of comprehensive education is very important. I know definitely for the folks and Afro women and mothers and folks in general in my community, and I'm sure it's not limited definitely to the Afro community. Yet, I heard someone on the internet the other day, a doctor, and she was chocolate, and she was talking about sea moss, and she was commenting on sea moss is not for everybody. Now, I can study different sides of information, and I got her point. Right? Some people may have an underlying condition. Yet, I don't think with the doctor uh, or rather when the comments from people in the comment section, they were really ragging on the doctor. They weren't feeling what the doctor had to say because I think in all honesty, doctors don't acknowledge that in general they have lost credibility with most people because most people in the comments were saying I've experienced with myself and with my parents excellent benefits from eating natural foods and eating sea moss. So although she was talking about the levels of iodine, which is relevant, and maybe one person said that was relevant to her in the comment section, um, it's a small percentage. And in general, it takes so much for people to start eating healthy in the first place. So for someone just to come and say, oh, this was the thing. She said, check with your doctor before you eat. Take CMOS. And I thought that was absolutely ridiculous. When's the last time you heard a medical doctor be informed about nutrition or CMOS? Right? Mostly that's a cultural thing. And any doctors usually that you encounter that have that are really educated on CMOS and natural living, either A, they live the lifestyle, or they have taken the time and spent the money invested in themselves to educate themselves. So it is really for us to be educated consumers because I like to say I'm on my own. Okay, so next, so using accountability tools to measure, is your fitness effective? If you're not seeing results, that means that there's a blind spot. You're likely under or overestimating the amount of activity that you're doing. You likely have inefficient form or poor form. You're likely not doing enough or at a certain type of intensity to see the kind of results that you want to have in a nutshell. So measuring, using accountability tools, that's something also that we go over in coaching every day at 5 a.m. So I show you how to use all those fancy heart rate monitors and fitness trackers. And you can learn, even though it's bigger than calories, most people have no frame of reference for how much fuel they need, and some people are not very well informed about the quality of food. So that does make a big difference. All right. So number seven strategies to get up early. I know folks may not want to hear, but I'm just going to tell you it works. Folks have been asking me for years, why do you get up so early? What? Because it works, right? By the time people are falling down the stairs and running to catch the train, because I'm like, if you run to catch the train, that train was not for me. If I got to fall down, break my neck to get to the train, and inside, that's too much stress. Or have road rage, or they're rushing out of the house to the area where their corporate offices, which is a food desert. And so then without proper preparation, you wind up getting lunch out of a vending machine or a cold refrigerator and Dwayne Reed or CVS out of a pharmacy. So that's a setup, right? You wind up eating fat-free Pringles or some processed lunch meat. And what do you think our immune system and our cells have to say about that? right? We can't outsmart the cells, right? I used to do the artificial sweeteners with fitness competitions. That stuff also can contribute to diabetes, right? So getting up early, if you get up early, you have enough time to get your movement practice on and make sure you are strapped with healthy food that is attractive to you. And now you'll save time and money because you don't have to leave work to go out, rush out, to go stand in line to pay for poor quality food that's not in alignment with what your goals are. And it does take a learning curve, though. If we can learn how to prepare mac and cheese and different flesh foods, and I'm not telling folks what to do, but if we can learn how to prepare all these things that cause ill health, then you're not even washing the same amount of dishes when you're eating stuff from the plant kingdom and queendom, right? It doesn't even have cholesterol. You don't even need all the dish liquid. So getting up early works. Again, that will likely mean you will go to bed early, but extra benefit is you'll digest your food better. All right, next hack, number 8. So if you're getting up early, that means number 8, go to bed early and cut the time wasters, conversations. And then you'll start to see how addictive a lot of our habits and our conditioning is, right? We can say programming. And I make the effort to be careful of the narrative and the words that I'm using. Okay, yes, we receive all kinds of programming, yet sometimes our language can be disempowering. So, programming, think about that in contrast to conditioning. So, either we've been conditioned, then we can recondition ourselves, right? I'm all about what is there for me to do that I can proactively do for myself to make a change. That's what I'm responsible for. So, how can I maximize the space wherever I'm paying rent or mortgage? How can I maximize my resources? That's meant me being a member of a food co-op for years, me using a bicycle as a primary method of transportation. Those have all been conscious decisions and lifestyle practices that actually have proven to be quite pleasant and efficient, right? So go to bed early as much as you can, and that will likely take some reconditioning yourself. But when you wake up so rested and you're like, I can't wait to do my exercise, and just your body, which is very intelligent, just releasing rather than weight loss, releasing weight is so worth it. Number 9, I invite you to consider curating your social media. It's addictive. It is. It's extremely addictive. Sometimes we're freaking ourselves out watching Fright and Fear, and you can go into a state of paralysis munching on snacks. I know for me from a young age, I was like, how come I can't watch TV without eating popcorn or something? And so after years of research, I realized that it can keep you, it's triggering, right? How we're processing information. A lot of times we're eating out of nervous anxiety, not even necessarily that we're hungry. And something that we've been discussing in coaching on Sunday, I'll just give you a little tidbit that you may find useful, is that we don't realize, right? I hear all different kinds of folks' perspective, right, on why they have cravings, right? Crackheads crave crack. People crave cigarettes. So we a lot of times we don't discern or unpack what a craving really is. A lot of the population today is pre-diabetic, right? And some of that we can see in our midsection. I'm not talking about us being curvy, though our propensity to put and store a lot of unhealthy adipose tissue around the midsection is usually a precursor for diabetes and high blood pressure, right? And heart disease. Usually we'll get one or a combination of several of them. So we don't realize, right, that our bodies, even if just eating too much food in one sitting, let's say you were a vegan health junkie, like I was, eating, I don't know how much vegan Oreos, right? Eating too much food in one sitting, the stomach is only but so big, and we can only handle so much food at one time. So your body is going to secrete insulin, right, to help you process the sugar or carbohydrates or energy or fuel, right? And so the body will attempt to store some as glucose, right? Store some of this energy in the muscles, and some will be stored in the liver. By the way, you do have enough energy stored inside your body in the morning for at least about an hour, if not a little more, of exercise, right? But anything extra, the body's going to store it as fat. And insulin, one of the features or characteristics of insulin is it is a fat storage hormone. So a lot of times when we're experiencing all these cravings, Many of us don't realize that from years of overeating, recreational eating, and eating, not trying to be a party pooper, and eating substances masquerading as food, right? It's more a party in your mouth than it is nutrition for the cells and immune system. It's flavoring. The sugar cane, like right outside. So, sugar cane will make your teeth clean. It's very hydrating and loads of fiber. Yet, the highly processed form of that food, what remains is a flavoring agent. There's no nutrition. I would even say it's anti-nutrition. Sorry. But it's anti nutrition. So we burn out the pancreas, right? Nobody talks about the pancreas really. So we burn out the pancreas, its ability to produce insulin, or the pancreas are now producing a little bit of insulin, not enough, or it's producing it inefficiently, right? So you have all of this energy flooding into the bloodstream. I've got more than enough stuff stored in my muscle. I've got more than enough energy stored in my liver. What should the body do with it? Oh, well, then we store it as adipose tissue. This making sense? So I like to break things down to the simplest common denominator, because I know what it's like to be struggling with, just not understanding, like there has to be a reason why, right? And looking at pictures of my mom and her little poodle skirt and her saddle shoes, and seeing pictures of my aunties, and then seeing them later, a lot of the morbid obesity in my family in the church, I was wondering if that would be my trajectory. The trajectory for many of us in the latter portion of our lives will likely be many of us addicted to pain medications or various medications, high blood pressure medications, not being able to travel without our medications and having limited mobility, or perhaps having people um, that don't really care for us to have to trust them to take care of us when we're older. If we're not making significant regular deposits into the 401k of our health and our bodies, right? Actual health care. Hope this is valuable and this is making sense. Okay, so we have get up early was number 7. Number 8, go to bed early. Cut time wasters, people, conversations, because it's cutting into your workout time. We all have enough time. It's time management, and that's our responsibility, is our schedule. So number 9 was curate your social media, things that are stressing you out, have you comparing you to everybody. It's not your life. You're looking at movie stars, people. You're seeing a little blip on the screen of their life, and it's triggering you. You might want to cut it. Why? You might want to cut all. I cut all the notifications off my phone, because to constantly bing, 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 going off to see. I don't need to see every email. I don't need to see every bomb that's dropping. That stuff. I don't know about y'all. I'm sensitive, and it freaks me out. That it also have you medicating to soothe your nerves. So I invite you to highly curate and declutter your social media so you can get your mental, emotional energy and focus back. Recapture some of it. Number 10. Okay, this is something we go over in coaching, right? I like to dispel a lot of myths in a way that can really shorten your learning curve. So, number 10, I think, is really, really important, right? Number 10 is pay attention. Pay attention to what, Kwasa? Pay attention to bloat, to adipose tissue, right? And adipose tissue is just a technical term for fatty tissue, right? The quote unquote white fat. There's brown fat, which we don't have that much of it. That's more metabolically active. And then there's white fat. There's subcutaneous fat, which is right underneath the skin. And then there's visceral fat. So if our stomachs are getting very, very hard and bloated, we may have a lot of visceral fat, unhealthy fat that is wrapping around the organs. Again, this is why I like to make the distinction that we should be concerned about our numbers. So to add some objective accountability tools. So you may not be a doctor or a PhD, but there's enough information out there to empower yourself to learn about your numbers. Where do you lie on the scale in terms of your BMI or your waistline? And even without having all that information, if you can grab a whole bunch of adipose tissue around your midsection, that's saying something to how your organs, your pancreas, your kidneys, your organs are functioning, and they may not be functioning optimally. And we need them in order to produce the hormones for us to synthesize different types of minerals, for this whole system to work efficiently. So we want to just be at a healthy weight. And the main area that we want to keep slim is our midsection, right? That should not be hanging out over the belt, looking at our energy level. So you want to pay attention to bloat, right? And water retention. That's telling us a lot if we have too much salt, if our kidneys are filtering properly, the um, the sewage system of the body, the lymphatic system is likely not being drained. So now we see more lymphedema and edema, right? All the salt and the cheap salt and the flavorings that part in your mouth. I was a Dorito addict. I was a barbecue potato chip addict. I was a popcorn addict. All of that extra salt. It's not the same as the naturally occurring sodium that you're going to get out of broccoli, tomatoes, or celery. And also, when we're soothing ourselves with food, which is not a crime, it's understandable, we're not reaching for celery and broccoli. Usually. So it's a lot of conditioning, and that's really something to contend with, and to acknowledge. So, paying attention to bloat, to excess adipose tissue at the waistline, and to the elimination, the constitution of our elimination. If you've got hard pebbles dropping into the toilet, even when people say, I go 3 times a day. Okay, you're going 3 times a day. If you can barely pass a couple of stones and your body's dried out, it's dehydrated. If you have dried elimination and BMs, bowel movements, or stools, then it's likely your rest of your body is dried, right? Your spine, your nervous system, which is very important. People are thinking about the skin and the muscle, but your brain and your nervous system come first. When you're taking a hit of poison, it's the brain that's affected first. It's the brain. Nobody's eating for the brain. So how do you expect to make really good quality decisions if you're not feeding your brain? That doesn't make that doesn't make one iota of sense. Doesn't make sense. So your nervous system, all of these artificial foods and a party in our mouth, and it's affecting your nervous system. It's wearing away at your nervous system. It affects your ability to focus. And we're being encouraged to medicate and self-medicate. And all the self-medication, it's like coffee isn't a substitute for sleep. Well, self-soothing with these substances is not a substitute for resolving trauma. It's not a substitute for removing yourself from harm's way. It's not a substitute. It's not the same thing. It's not nutrition. The party in your mouth is not nutrition. Now, you can take this information and do whatever you are called to do with it. So that's number 10, because your elimination is telling you a lot about what's going on with your body. So I invite you in your quiet moments to listen. Your body's communicating with you all the time. All the acne I had for years, that it took me years to like, why won't it clear up with all the juicing and stuff that I'm doing? Well, at some point I had to be honest with all the years of stuffing all of those Kit Kats and Cadberries and eating at 2 restaurants a day. Yep. All the health junk, the Oreos, the vegan ones and the regular ones. Did that stuff, it didn't disappear with one green juice. It just didn't. So had to pay. Right. And most of us, we're encouraged to not think about paying the bill, especially in the time that we're living in. And I'm not a prude, but we're encouraged to just pleasure, pleasure, pleasure. But pleasure, I'm a little wary. Pleasure in the absence of responsibility and accountability, that's a setup. That is a setup. That is a setup. All right. So those are my 10. Those are my 10 strategies or hacks to get fit and feel better and eat healthy once and for all. And I have a bonus one. I have a bonus one, and these are all lifestyle strategies. Again, if you need some help or coaching or interested in group coaching, feel free to reach out to me, info at body-culinary .com. And there is a book available, Whole Living Foods in the Hood, with menus to fit your budget. Whatever label you want to call yourself is your BI business. Though we could all benefit from more whole, fresh, living, unprocessed food. See that? No label necessary. The label is just a distinction of what you would like to be served. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean I'm a nice person because I'm not eating animal flesh, right? It's much a bigger picture than that. Okay, so here's my bonus one: time block, right? A strategy hack, right? I love to use notebooks. I know people are not writing, but my godfather used to tell me writing causes thinking. And we're losing our ability for discernment and to think. So I like to use notebooks, and I'll write all the hours down: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the 12 or 24 hours. And you can start to time block, right? So my workout, my movement practice, that gets a time block. The garden gets a time block. I'll even reverse engineer to see how many times, how many hours of sleep I'm getting. So if you time block, That can be an excellent strategy so you can see objectively, right? And logically, because we don't really move logically most of the time as humans, you can actually start to see in your accounting of your time how much time is going to time wasters on the internet. If it's not a leverage, if it's not an asset activity, then it's a liability. It just is what it is. Doesn't make us bad people, though. You're not bad or wrong if you're not achieving your results. Yet, how important is it to you to achieve another level of a result? So, time blocking, and here's my bonus. Here's my bonus. Consider how the things that you are consuming, right? Which is not limited to food, the conversations you're consuming, definitely what you're listening to, right? We can call it programming. I invite you to consider the conditioning, right? The conditioning, how the music you're listening to, the conversations, how is it making you feel? Is it making you feel inspired to get into action around the things that you say that you value, your core values? If you're not getting into action, doesn't make you a bad person. Yeah, you can exit off this planet um, with regrets, not being fully self-actualized. We don't need to be perfect, but that can also cause us to self-medicate, because in the back of our mind, you might be laying down next to some person that's not beneficial, right? Using them as a human pacifier or a pleasant distraction, or maybe food or the Doritos has become your boyfriend or girlfriend, or the Kit Kats or the Reese's peanut butter cups. Ask me how I know. Maybe it's the vegan peanut butter cups. And maybe we've just become complacent with a whole closet full of bags, and we've become complacent. The common narrative is we're just okay with not having healthy relationships because we're following all these online personalities that I feel like are instigating so much blame and don't focus primarily on us taking in our quiet moments accountability and responsibility for what we're putting out, right? Responsibility for our reproductive organs, which we're wielding loosely like a sword. I'm wary of anything that's stroking my ego, but doesn't have a conversation without beating me up around accountability and responsibility. That's not the whole picture. And so we are allowing ourselves and some of the young people unknowingly to be misled, right, with these skewed formulas. So hopefully, this conversations, communication has been valuable to you. Again, the goal here, oh, I didn't think it was going to go so long, was strategies. Some people say hacks. I would say leverage strategies, right? Leverage. It's giving you an edge. It's giving you more back than you've invested, right? For your time, your energy, and attention, your time, energy, and attention. How you can get fit and you can really feeling better is important. Not in a fake way, which you just saying affirmations when you know you're not in action. That's a lie. And you cannot lie. You cannot outrun lying to your subconscious. That's going to make you self medicate even more. And to eat healthy for once and for all. It's a mindset shift. So shout out to Mizrael, great share. You're so welcome, Mizrael. Mizrael, you're interested. I've seen you on some other platforms. So I make an effort. I want to get into action. It's only but so much talking that you can do. So appreciate your presence. Kanene, peace. Hey, big Thai Tiana. If only I could be a night owl and an early bird and still be well rested. You can. It's strategy. Trying lots of things on for size, and you just refine it. You can be whatever you want to be. I've had people say, "Oh, you can do this because of that." No, I'm not doing anything that anybody else can't do. Whether it's downsizing, travel, I'm really not. I'm not doing anything that anybody else can do. It's just a choice, and it's really just comes down to decisions, right? So it's easy to give ourselves an out. If you want to, where there's a will, there's a way. Really, it's that simple. And greetings to Carolyn. More work on decluttering. So I may have a decluttering slash garden party. Made in Cumberan. Good morning, my friend. Oh, that was from Indonesia. And Jaleesa. Hey, Jaleesa. Sending some warm, positive vibrations. So feel free for support. I invite you to play. As I've said before, there's a whole section of relaxation videos. I invite you to play these videos back while you're decluttering. Excellent partner. You got me right there. Make use of, leverage the technology. You can leverage the internet, right, for your benefit, or replay while you're If you need to put it on while you're doing cardio, if you are at the gym or you have a gym membership, or while you're washing dishes, or maybe perhaps set a timer, maybe an hour, hour and a half before you start shutting the lights and shutting things down. Before you go to lay to have some peaceful rest, your mind, if it's conditioned, is likely, and your ego is going to be on fire. It's going to be resisting going to bed earlier. But you just let it scream and shout, and you go take your rest and have a good rest. Lifestyle practice, I'm telling you, it makes all the difference in the world. So let me get off of here so I can go jump into another class so I can be up and available for a workout in the morning at 5 a.m. Tomorrow is Friday. So Friday is a community class. Community class is that is sliding scale. So if you're not able to pay the full amount, you can give whatever donation. I do not turn any women or girls away because, again, I like to prioritize coming together around activities. I want to get, if I'm inspired to get into action, that's one of my litmus tests. Again, that's one of my secret hacks. If I'm inspired to get into action around what my core values are, then it's been a good investment of my time, right? So Friday, I love the energy because although I'm a trainer and a coach, I'm also inspired by the people that I work with, their transformation as well. So you can donate Kwasapeacefull Eating on Cash App. It's 5 a.m. sharp. Usually on Fridays, we'll do more a little touch of capoeira and some African dance. I like to have a lot of fun and like to play. So in the About section, there is a link. You'll fill out the Flower Fit application so I can see who you are. I must be able to identify avatar, name, and email before I give access. Uh, Safety is a number one priority. I'm unapologetic. I'm not having any conversations about that. So hopefully, the rest of you all will start to prioritize safety so we can create a climate where we can feel comfortable in our hair and skin. Hope you all have a really peaceful rest this evening so that your food can digest and go to where it needs to go so that your cells are nourished, that you have really sweet, restful dreams, and you wake up saying, I can't wait to move in the morning. Like, comment respectfully, and subscribe. I'm